Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. My name is Eric Connor. I'm a therapist at Recovery Restore Counseling. And today in this video, we're going to talk more about something we started in the last video, but talking about what we call sympathetic activation, otherwise nicknamed fight or flight. This is a state that we can get in our bodies, in our nervous system, where we move from what we call a ventral vagal place state, which is kind of our top level nervous system, where we're in our adult self, where we feel more relaxed, we feel like we have choices, we can kind of see what's going on, whereas we can drop down into what's called the sympathetic nervous system, and we get what's called sympathetic activation. And this is a state where we're going to feel tense, we're going to feel anxious all of a sudden. We may feel really narrow in what's going on. We can't see what's going on around us, except right now we may find rising emotions. We may even feel disconnected from the moment a bit. We may even dissociate. So fight or flight affects us all in different ways. And like I said, sometimes it happens when we don't expect it and with the people that we almost trust the most. So today in this video, we want to look at what do we do when this is starting to happen to us? If we're with someone, if we're with our family, if we're with kids, if we feel it coming on at work, if we start to recognize that something's going on inside of us, what do we do? And I want to look at this both in the moment, and I also want to look at this from a kind of a big picture standpoint around what we can do to kind of work on this over time. Now, there's lots of great resources out there about this. What I'm going to explain has been my experience both for myself and with working with my clients over these years. And these are strategies that have just basically been proven by them to kind of work well for what they're going through. So the first thing is, when you are feeling like you are going into fight or flight, and again, this is a tough place to be because when we're in fight or flight, when we have this sympathetic activation, we can react. We can yell. We can sometimes experience rage. It's a place where we're going to act much more primal as opposed to when we're in our frontal cortex, when we're in our ventral vagal state and we're feeling calm and kind of in control of the situation. So when fight or flight is happening, you have to understand that there's something happening in the body. A lot of people get tripped up because they start to try to think that they have to think themselves out of it. And when we go deeper into the sympathetic activation, it's not really a thinking thing anymore. Our bodies are in a certain state and it's registering like there's a threat. So the very first thing to do is to try to just leave the situation. I know that sounds kind of rudimentary, but when it's happening, the worst thing we can do is to let it grow and to try and to let the kind of activated energy get more and more inside of us. That's where things begin to explode. When we do couples counseling, a lot of times the big fights happen because they're both in an activated state, and a common technique is a timeout. We got to just take space. So when you're recognizing it's happening, whether it's with your spouse, partner, kids, a colleague, try to remove yourself from the situation. Your body has to know that we've taken ourselves out of the threat. Now that word threat may feel curious. How am I under threat when I'm hanging out with my wife or we're having an argument? We'll talk about that towards the end of the video. But we should try to get out of the situation so that our bodies, our nervous system, can begin to register that the threat is not totally present anymore. Now, when we get out, there's things we can do. I've talked to clients, they'll go for a walk. They'll try to breathe deeply. They may try to connect with nature if there's something outside of their home or their building. A lot of them have spiritual tools they may use. They may try to pray. A very good technique is to actually just call someone. The ventral vagal state is where we have our social engagement. So a lot of times when we can call someone, it's like we're coming back into some sort of social situation, and that can register as safety. That's why a lot of times when we talk out some of our problems or our struggles with someone, we do feel better. So making a call, that can help too. It can take time for us to come out of this place. It's not going to happen right away. We may need 15 minutes, 30 minutes longer. But we want to remove ourselves from the situation that our sympathetic nervous system is registering as a threat, and we want to do something kind of active. We don't want to sit there and spin about what's happening. We need to kind of change our focus and do that through the walk, the breathing, talking to someone, like I said. The other thing that's very helpful is to try to retell yourself the story of what's happening. When we're in fight or flight, there's a narrative happening. And we have what's called schemas inside of us. It's like we have these kind of clusters of memories that can kind of get activated together. That's why gratitude is so important for people in recovery. Because when we practice gratitude, it naturally brings up other positive memories, other positive emotions associated with that. Likewise, when we're in fight or flight, we are telling ourselves a story about what's happening. And usually that's a story where we feel like a victim, we feel wrong, we feel justified, and it can feel really powerful. So, for example, if we have a very bad argument in our coupleship and we are going into fight or flight, in that moment, as things are getting escalated, we may tell ourselves, she doesn't care, he doesn't care. This always happens. It's never going to change. And when we can walk away from the situation and catch our breath and let ourselves start to get back into our adult selves, we can remind ourselves the full story. This is just an argument. This person actually really does care for me. And I can point to many examples of that. I'm in a fight or flight state. So if we can tell ourselves a story, we're working with our brain, we're working with our nervous system to start to calm ourselves down. So these are things we can do in the moment when this is happening. And the biggest takeaway is just leave. You got to get out of there. And then once you get out of there, then it's going to be easier to reassess the situation and to take care of yourself so that you can re-engage at some point in a healthy way. Now I want to take a step back and I want to look at, from a big picture and from a holistic standpoint, what can each of us do to begin to work on keeping ourselves regulated and to help prevent us falling into that sympathetic activated place. So the goal is to stay in more that top level ventral vagal state where we are in our kind of true adult self, where we can stay calm, where we can react appropriately, and in fact be part of the solution. We'll be someone that can help bring the situation down to a manageable level as opposed to being that person that actually takes it in to the fight or flight place. So I want to offer 3 suggestions around this. Again, been shown to be very helpful to both myself and my clients. The first thing is to know your trigger situations. For most of us, there's certain people, places, situations that are hotspots. Certain topics we can talk about, or certain people that we interact with. Sometimes it's like certain situations with our kids and how they're going to react, or around ways they aren't compliant to what we need. So we want to know what are the situations that can trigger us into that. If we are observant about it, oftentimes we'll see there are patterns. We kind of say when we talk about working ourselves in therapy, whatever we don't repair, we're probably going to repeat. And so oftentimes, again, the fight or flight's happening because for the situation, we feel under threat. Although on the surface, someone might not understand why, because it's connecting into something inside of us that's feeling like this is a dangerous situation or something bad could happen to us. So we want to understand when that happens and then begin to be aware of it. And when we go into those situations, we can go in kind of eyes wide open. A lot of times these fight or flight situations happen, or when we overreact, or when we hurt someone that we don't want to. Most of us would say, we didn't even see it coming. But if we can start to know these situations and know the strength or the risk of these situations, then we can go in and do a better job of not letting that happen. The second thing is around self-care. Now, as we said, fight or flight, it is connected to our bodies. It's connected to how well we're taking care of ourselves. So how you start the day, the level of stress that you're under, any chaos that's kind of happening, how much bandwidth do you have to relax or to just take care of yourself, whether it's through eating or working out or whatever the case may be. Again, the fight or flight, this is a response from the nervous system. And if you have kind of more reserves, if you're in a better place and you're taking care of yourself, you will absolutely do a better job of not falling into that. It's a lot of times when we're exhausted, when we're overwhelmed, when we're scared, we have a lot of fear. Then you throw all that into a particular situation, and that's where this activation happens, and can sometimes happen in a big way. Now, the third thing is our own work on ourselves. It is true that the past is often in the present. And for people that begin to engage in their own therapy, they start to get some fairly, some bigger aha moments or larger insights into the context of why certain situations feel so disturbing to them inside. Sometimes it's connected to abandonment, sometimes it's connected to traumatic memories. It can be connected to a lot of things. But we have to understand that a lot of times when we are overreacting, it really is not about the present situation. Our past is coming into the future, and believe it or not, your body is just trying to protect you. It's trying to get you into a state where you can protect yourself, even though it doesn't really match the context of what's happening. So thanks for watching, everyone, and hopefully this was helpful, and we'll see you soon.